thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be invited, and also it's great to be able to have this conversation with the community. It's something that I've, as you know when I met you at the conference, was really eager to ask loads of questions. So it's great that you're doing this. And so I thought, what a great opportunity to present a bit of a love letter to DORA, because the reality is it's made my work a lot easier at Cinch. So I'm a head of engineering practice at Cinch. I've been at the company for about 3.5 years, and I very much kind of advocate for DevOps and observability and all sorts of engineering practices to help the teams kind of have a DevOps mindset. So Cinch is a online retailer of cars in the UK. So we're one of those new generation online car websites, really. So we offer, you can buy it without any faff on the website. You can get it delivered or collect it from a place near you, and you can have a 14-day, I think, guarantee to return it. So that's kind of about the business. So I guess we started around 2019, and at the time in 2019, it was these are the books that we're mostly reading: The Theory of Constraints, of kind of how to deliver value quicker and in a very linear approach, and kind of take away the constraints. Apostolidis, which is something that was just starting at the time, how we structure our teams, how the teams collaborate with each other, and then obviously Accelerate, which you all know. And also we were reading Dave Farley's books and kind of following his content, and I'm using this as a bit of a meta thing. I'm using this from a previous talk in the community, which I found really interesting, from Greater Hope, that Dave shared, which is the various different types of business that you might have. And when Cinch started out, our goal was very much to go for this economies of speed approach that Dave was talking about. So this resonated quite a bit, and to demonstrate that, our engineering director at the time, Matt Tuplin, was one of the best engineering directors I've ever worked with, literally got us in a room and said, right, it's now scientifically proven that you can go both quickly and safely. We don't need any QAs. This predicts organizational performance. Let's just do it. Let's go full kind of DevOps first. And Jazz Chana, who's like the technology director, who was one of the first hires for Cinch, was, yep, all in, and let's start a book club on Accelerate. So a big optimization on learning. And I think this graph basically made it a lot easier for everyone, really. It's this link between continuous delivery and organizational performance was what took continuous delivery from a hip movement to fact. And it was a lot easier to sell, even if we were all agreeing with each other. This was a great way to make the argument. So then they went away and they hired a DevOps guy. So they fell into the anti-pattern straight away. Let's hire a DevOps person, and this is me. But ultimately, the angle that this was done was that they wanted to bring someone in with a subject matter expertise with DevOps and DevOps, so that they can bring the mindset in rather than the technical capabilities. The way we were structured was very much, we have cross-functional teams and we had autonomous teams, and we used the embedded DevOps model of having a software engineer who's kind of bringing in that DevOps mindset into each team. Obviously, this doesn't scale as much. So in reality, as we had more and more teams, this was a lot harder to maintain. And one interesting point here is it's quite hard to hire the right type of people for DevOps engineers, or automation engineers, as we called them, because we tried to avoid the use of the term DevOps. We also tried things like the DevOps community, so we bring people together to share learnings and to explore things and grow together, and that worked quite nicely as well. But there's always something missing. So this is where kind of the key thing that I want to talk about came in, which is how to make sure squads keep improving their DevOps practices. So all of these things that we've already done help, but actually we turn to the Accelerate metrics, the 2 speed metrics and the 2 stability metrics, and we started measuring them. Started using Datadog, measuring a couple of the 2 out of 4. We did the thing that everyone did at the time. Oh, let's try and measure them. Let's go crazy. But I can hear Nathan's head and shaking right now, because it's not about measuring the thing, it's more about improving the thing. So we asked ourselves again, what do we really want to achieve? How do we make sure squads keep improving their DevOps practices? And it's not about measuring the accelerate metrics. It's more about how do we get them thinking about DevOps practice improvement, and not only thinking about their next feature or their next product improvement. So we went back to Accelerate, went back to DORA and the State of DevOps reports and the DevOps Quick Check. And these, again, kind of second opportunity to say thank you to everyone at DORA for this, because it really helped inform our approach. And our light bulb moment is, well, you know, we can evaluate ourselves on our maturity against the industry, but it's the capabilities that the maturity highlights that is really, really important. So that's what we used for the workshop that I was talking to Nathan about, which is termed the DevOps checkpoint. But it's literally the 4 accelerant metrics in questions, and I'll take you through what that means. And we made it a workshop as you'd expect, with all the kind of proper guidelines and a thing to be delivered to teams. Just quickly take you through what it looked like. So I'm just showing you the thing. So this is what teams see. So starts with welcoming people to DevOps checkpoints, agree on meeting principles. It's really, really crystal clear. It needs to be crystal clear that this is a self-evaluation of the DevOps practices. So the team self-evaluates and identifies things to improve. It's a way to continuously improve and kind of nudge towards that way. It also feeds into things like service readiness, and it kind of helps with having a regular review of DevOps maturity. But the main things is self-evaluation and improvement. Very clear about the agenda. And the outcome is we want to know what DevOps maturity capabilities we can focus on and collectively agree on improvement actions. So talk about the principles of the day, which is, you know, we want everyone's experience. It's not only about a tech thing, it can be non-techies as well, and have fun. So the second thing we do as kind of part of the workshop is we talk about our DevOps model, which is you build it, ship it, support it. We're entirely serverless, so that makes it a lot simpler. And we talk about a bit about a schematic approach of how we deploy software and how we monitor it and observe it. So we set the scene by doing that, and we talk about the accelerant metrics and ask the questions that we want them to have in their minds. How might we strike the right balance between velocity and stability, and how might we minimize time to acknowledge and time to restore? So these are the things we want them to have on the forefront of their minds. And then we talk about the CI/CD principles that we have set at Cinch. And then that's it. We've finished with talking, and we get into this collaborative exercise. We go through each one of these accelerate metrics, like the lead time for changes first, and we talk about, we ask the entire team to vote on their own about what they think, what their perception is of lead time in this example. And we give them some tips on the left, which is, you know, think about the journey of a commit from the moment it has been pushed to the moment code is ready to be used in production. And that all of this triggers a few questions and a few good conversations, which makes us think about velocity. But also, we've also found that answers can differ between people in the team, and that's also a nice probing opportunity to say, well, you know, why do you think that's different? And generate some really good conversation. And in the end, we settle on one of the answers that the entire team agrees. We kind of put them on the spectrum between low maturity and high maturity, and this is where a team is more or less kind of given a maturity of elite. In this example, this is an actual example, the latest example that we'd used. And we also highlight the capabilities that means that they need to be focusing on, which is monitoring and durability, working in small batches, and Western organizational culture. So this link between the two is really powerful and gets the team really engaged to start with, and it's a nice feeling to feel elite as well. The next thing we do, so we use that quick, so to get those answers, we use the quick check online. But then the next thing we do is we actually take this feeling of being high or elite in terms of a team, and we actually map out the value streams. We map out the flow from dev work started to actually something in production in front of customers, and even after that, when an issue happens, we color code it with automated and manual, and we signpost failed deployments or any kind of failure. And once we've done that, which is a really, really productive exercise as a team, we've already got them really engaged in the workshop. We spend a few minutes identifying improvements. So we each member of the team gets puts up an improvement specifically on the value stream. And this is an example of this happened recently. So you can see all the color coding, and all the green is automated, all the yellow is kind of manual work. So you can start seeing where you can improve things to reduce toil. And the threes are the ones that are most voted, which I can't tell what they are right now. And the final stage of the workshop that we go through is this DevOps checkpoint summary. So we don't want to lose this information. We want to keep 4 important things, which is the maturity, then the link of the maturity to the capabilities, then the flow itself, can take a screenshot of that flow, and then what improvements were identified. Because remember, we might not do this very often, we might do it every 6 months, every 4 months, but teams change, personnel changes, priorities change. So it's good to remember what happened last time. So this is what it looks overall as an example. And this is an example of what happened recently. This team came up as elite, and they came up with various improvements that they've recorded. And we've got an idea of all the kind of DevOps choke points that have happened in the last few months or years. So you have a record of what's happened. Just to sum this up, because Nathan did say to keep it to 10 plus 5 minutes, I think. Some observations that we've seen is that speed is more about ability to deploy. So you can make loads of deployments per day, but maybe you don't need to because you're doing some discovery work, for example. So it's more the ability to deploy rather than speed. Teams love feeling elite. It's a good feel to have, and to be compared against the rest of the industry. And it's a nice way to start a conversation. Operational performance always really did felt missing, if I'm honest. So when it came up in 2021 or 2020, I can't remember, it was really nice to see. Stability metrics are hard to measure. So as you saw when we started doing it with Datadog, or even when we're doing it qualitatively, asking the team, it's hard to kind of gauge what that really is. As Nathan says, improve the thing, don't measure it. That's something that we try to kind of land with this workshop, with the existence of the workshop itself, rather than kind of measuring them in Datadog. We make sure that it's more of a self-evaluation, and also maybe a bit of a stretch, but the bottleneck is rarely in CI/CD. It's more in other things, maybe in monitoring, observability, or things outside the inner loop of DevOps, if you like. So since we're kind of in this in the community, I thought it was a great opportunity to pose some questions. So it's still not clear to me with a new DevOps report how we should be changing this types of workshop, if anything. Second question is how to measure operational performance, and I put measure in quotes because I'm not sure it's easy to do, but it's definitely something to get a signal of, or to gauge, or to at least have a conversation about. Should we actually slow down? Is a question I have. About 10 years ago, we weren't deploying as often, but now we have the ability to deploy as often as possible, almost. So should we be actually slowing down? And finally, what does all of this mean in serverless? And and that's it. I've also kind of added this to the Lean Coffee that's following. So hopefully that wasn't too quick. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Toli. That was amazing. And I think one of the most fantastic things is that your teams have made elite not a destination, but once they can be elite, and they can still continue to improve and identify how to keep doing that. So that's incredible.